Welcome to the Grappling Grappling Rewind Podcast.
Welcome to this week on the Grappling Rewind Podcast. On this week's show, we're going to recap the 2026 ADCC West Coast trials. As always on the show, I'm your host, Maine. Join my co-host,
Adam.
How you doing, Adam?
Doing all right.
Good to have you in, man. Kind of a bit of last minute, so I appreciate you can fill in. You were one of the guys at the gym that we always talk to about jiu-jitsu. I thought you'd be a good fill-in for West Coast trials. Honestly, not a whole lot of news other than ADCC West Coast trials happened. The last qualifier for anyone in North America that wants to get an invite into ADCC. So essentially, that was the last shot. I think it's the last trials as well. This was like the last trials in the lead up to ADCC. And that is it. Next week, we have Brasileiros, so we are not going to preview that because it is a bracketed event, and they are a nightmare to preview. So we are just going to move right into it. Adam, where do you want to start? I know where I want to start here. I want to start with my people, the small men. Where do you want to start this week?
We can start with small people. That's
right.
cool.
Let's start with the smaller guys. Under 66 kilos, Gianni Grippo takes on Dominic Mejia. Dominic Mejia has been there before. I interviewed Dominic Mejia back on when he got second place at ADCC trials a couple of years ago. It's cool to see him making it all the way back into the finals again versus Gianni Grippo. Gianni Grippo had never won trials. Gianni Grippo's been around forever. If you haven't seen Gianni Grippo's, man, he is a legend, 34 years old, almost about to be a fourth degree black belt in like a year. We looked it up on the pre-show, and we're like, he's a year away from being a fourth degree black belt at 34 years old, which is something you only get if you got your black belt at like 19. Like, I think the limit for when you can get your fourth degree
33 years
is
old.
33 years old. So it's like Jay Reglabudo was talking about it on commentary. Also, Jay Reglabudo, Jasmine Hosh on commentary. They had another guy on commentary whose name I'm blanking on. Overall, really good commentary set. Like, I enjoyed the commentary for the entirety of the trials finals. Gianni's been around forever, and he looked good. Mejia also looked very, very good in this trials. There's really, we have a tendency for exciting matches to play-by-play them. I don't really want to play-by-play this one, Adam. I want to go through a couple of different pieces, but this was, for me, the best match of trials because it had the regulation for ADCC finals is 6 minutes for trials, and then at the finals, the match goes to an 8-minute time. The first 4 minutes of that match are no points, and the second 4 minutes of that match are points. And if they are even on the scorecards, after the end of that, there is an immediate 4-minute overtime. And then there's typically a decision after that on the judges. Gianni Grippo loses the regulation. It's a good back-and-forth match. He loses. He ends that last piece of the match almost getting mounted, almost getting passed, and then almost getting his back taken and mounted by Dominic Mejia. Like, it was that was Michale Sainz. But the Grippo section of the match has Dominic Mejia. Late into the match, there's great guard work from Gianni Grippo. He's going to waiter guard, going to X guard. He turns Mejia over in the no points. Mejia plays a nice X guard. They go back and forth. Nothing on the board. 0-0. And then Mejia takes a shot. Like we've seen before, gets a single leg. Grippo, to get out of to being scored on by the takedown, goes to turtle. Mejia tracks the turtle, starts punching hooks in, gets the actual, goes from double unders, which I thought was interesting. Like, typically a lot of guys will elect to immediately go for the seatbelt, but it was really interesting to see Mejia immediately go for double unders in that position, and then from that, start hunting, and then he gets his first hook in. Only when Mejia gets his first hook in on Grippo after the turtle does he switch to seatbelt and start punching and trying for the choke. I thought that was like a really interesting specific piece of technique there. In that sequence, this is where Adam and I watched this a couple of times. We were watching exactly what Grippo was doing because there is a back take here. And at one point, Mejia gets both hooks in. And he gets both hooks in for maybe not 3 seconds.
No, it wasn't a full 3 seconds at all, no. But it was very close.
It was very close. But Grippo reaches down, and exactly like you see high-level guys do. He reaches down, he pushes that foot off, and then immediately Dominic Mejia goes, oh, cool, I can trap the arm. And you and I were talking, and I was kind of going, commentary was talking about this too, and I wanted to get your take on this. I watched this a bunch of times because I love rules, and I love the specifics and the nuances of ADCC rules, and I love watching a guy like Gianni Grippo operate in rule sets because he's not a guy that tends to make a lot of mistakes. He tends to be he's a veteran of the game. He knows exactly what he needs to be doing, where he needs to be doing it, and he's not a guy that's going to like give up points unnecessarily. He's not a guy that's ever going to make an unforced error. He knows what he's supposed to be doing at all times. He pushes off Mejia's hook to avoid the back mount score, and then I didn't know if he looped under the arm intentionally to have Mejia's hook trap his shoulder and arm in a place that would be non-scoring, or if it was Mejia recognizing he could have trapped the arm and getting overzealous and trapping it high. You were watching this and you thought it was very, very clear.
So at least for me, when I was seeing it, it looked like he intentionally was touching the foot. And then kind of like a reactionary you may see, he kind of went for the straitjacket, but then he immediately has his elbow up, like kind of is like making it appear as though my arm is higher than what it normally would be. And you kind of see after the match is over, Mejia talking about the points.
Yeah, Mejia specifically he's like touching on his like tricep, not tricep, whatever this is, bicep, whatever. Yeah, bicep and the thing behind it, tricep. Yeah, and he's specifically touching and looking at the ref and he's looking at the table, going like that didn't score, like I had up, and it's a specific rule in ADCC that basically a lot of things from the back in ADCC score, like hooks in, body triangle will score in ADCC. You can rescore in ADCC. But if you have one arm trapped above the shoulder or at the shoulder, and the rule is like really nuanced, it doesn't score. Because essentially a triangle from the back doesn't score as back mount. And you start to get into that territory of like, well, do you really have control of their back if you are that high up? And it's, I think Mejia has control of the back. But in ADCC, Grippo was a veteran enough to know, well, if I dunk my shoulder under here and I have enough of my arm and it's high enough up, it is not going to be a scoring position. And it basically gets Gianni Grippo to overtime in this incredible sequence that Mejia had that is so close to being scoring and so close to just ending the match by points immediately, and then we're done. Grippo stops the takedown. He turtles. He gets there. Mejia capitalizes on. And then Grippo, it is the veteran savvy that comes in here at the end to get this done.
And he eventually escapes. Remember, like with that body, with that trapped arm, he slides the foot over.
Oh, yeah, it doesn't even end in the position. He ends. Right. He is able to push off and beautiful hand fight and hip fight to get out of it, and they essentially end in neutral position at the end, which is wild because usually, again, at this level, you have someone on your back like that. Especially a guy like Mejia at 66 kilos, you're like, yeah, you're done. We're donezo. Especially with how much success Mejia has had submitting guys, last trials, this trials, like all the trials he's been in. So they restart. And Mejia, again, has just had success. And that restart, what I love about ADCC for the restart, for the overtime, is they don't take 5 minutes, get water. No, they bring you back. They restart the match standing in the center. And they just say go. It's like a 10-second restart. For the ladies' matches, usually there's some hair fixing. But even that's 10 or 15 seconds. They do not give you much time. They expect you to immediately continue the match just in overtime. Mejia shoots again, and then Grippo grabs just a really good front headlock and kind of counters. And then he sprawls out of Mejia because Mejia has his legs. He sprawls out. Okay, Grippo has a good sprawl. We know that. But he's not under and the shoulders like you would with a cattle catch. Like a traditional sprawl where you're going to get in front of the shoulders and hips and push them off and kind of buck them away. He locks up the head. And then he immediately pulls Mejia down and then throws an anaconda. And if you know anything about Grippo's game, the front chokes or the head and arm chokes are Grippo's specialty. He has so many wins at the highest level from mounted head and arm or just head and arm chokes. He is incredible at that collection of techniques.
That was a very interesting counter to see him snake his arm to grab the tricep, and I'm like, okay, that's not one I've seen typically in what I've watched people do, but I mean, maybe that's just a different wrestling thing. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it was cool, and then when he went for that choke, I'm like, oh,
this is in.
that's very deep. And then
Also,
Mejia keeps fighting.
The speed that he like locks up the anaconda choke was astonishing. Like he goes from the palm to palm grip and then immediately like hucks the elbow down a little lower and pops up, so he has hand in the back. Like traditional anaconda grip you're gonna get. Anaconda's harder to finish than Darce, but it's also Gianni Grippo, a guy that I like have no misgivings can put away almost anyone in this tournament from that position. And I was like, okay, Dominic Mejia has a fighting chance here. Mejia does the right stuff. He gets back to the flat to the mat. And then 2 separate times, we watched this on the pre-show. I was watching. I was like, "There's no way Mejia doesn't go out here. Like, there's no way that Mejia doesn't go out here." But he just continued. What were you seeing? Did you pick up anything specific here in you watching this that you were seeing Mejia do that was like specifically getting him out, other than like just getting flat and getting that arm up?
Yeah, he just kept getting wide. He kept trying to stay wide as much as he could, even though it looked like it was dead to rights. It was
done.
on.
Yeah, at one point, Grippo is mounted with both legs trapped in that, and I was like, oh, he's done. And then he like lets go of the position and tries to readjust, and I went, either he burned his arms out or he knows that Mejia is just so hellbent, has that shoulder high enough where it's like he's just not going to get it, it is crazy to watch a guy like Grippo get to a position that dominant and go, I got to go to something else. Like I am so curious in that moment, like what was going through Grippo's head, like tactically, for why he made that position switch there. And then, because again, he's down. He's very clearly down. And even this piece came off of Mejia shot. So it's like Mejia's initiating. If this is an even match, Mejia had his back, almost had the points in the last match. You have one good sub attempt that's a counter sub attempt. Like Grippo probably is still down in this match. And so he knows he has less than 4 minutes to like put a stamp on this to win his first trials. Both these guys are looking to win their first trials. They've both been here before in finals. And then what was the setup sequence here, Adam, for how Grippo actually kind of pathways towards the back here? There was so much that happened in the last like 4.5 minutes of this match.
Somehow I know he gets Mejia to a turtle. I don't remember the specifics of the turtle, but I remember him going for the turtle and immediately going with that palm-to-palm short choke.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, he just loops it over in transition. One thing I thought was funny that I want people to go back and watch here, in the initial scramble here where Grippo gets the anaconda grip, do you think Grippo sort of scored 2 points here? Because it's off a Mejia shot, which doesn't matter for takedowns. Who initiates a takedown doesn't matter. It is who at the end of the takedown sequence ends up. I think there is an argument for him scoring the takedown here because he ends on top. Mejia, and he doesn't need to clear the head. He ends on top. But I think the reason he doesn't score it is potentially because there's not continuous motion. There's like 2 points where it kind of stops for a second, and it's not settled, but it's not like, it is very clear Grippo is looking for the choke and is not looking to establish position.
Yes, there is one point where he is hunting that anaconda,
Yeah.
and they're both on their sides.
Yeah.
So no one's really on top.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, I'm trying to put this dude away.
Yeah.
And like that seems to be the goal. But then also, after all that fighting and rolling around, he was on top once it was all said and done. Now I know those rule sets are the rule sets specific to them, and I'm like, I don't know. I think it could have been 2. But I can understand that it wasn't one continuous motion, so it maybe isn't 2, but
it reminds me of the AJ Agazarm match from ADCC, I think in 2022, where Agazarm is arguing like for 2 points essentially, and it's not 2 points because it's not continuous motion, and Agazarm at a certain point starts to go for the back, and then gets on top and finishes on top. But it's like, well, it wasn't continuous motion, and at one point you changed to going for the back before you went on top, so the position changed. So those are like 2 rules, but it reminds me of like that because Agazarm was arguing for his 2 points, and it kind of reminds me of that same thing in this. It's like nobody really argues it because, again, Grippo ends with a submission. But it was an interesting like thought process to how well do you understand the rules to look at this and go, Why doesn't Grippo score 2 here? And me as a viewer, and again, the guy that's not anymore, but has judged a few ADCC events, it made me kind of go, ooh, I need to like refresh up and like tighten up my understanding of the rules heading into the World Championships, because I had a little more pause for like, I don't understand this rule well enough in watching this match for this moment. So the finish, let's talk about the finish, man. Grippo in a turtle sequence punches through a choke, and then Mejia, again, being diligent, blocking the hooks, pushing everything down, pushing everything off, and Grippo just like seemingly decides that like, yeah, man, I'm getting it. I know I have it. I'm getting it. And just Mejia's head is up for a split second too long in this turtle transition, and Grippo's able to get under the chin, and he's able to stay locked under the chin, and he goes palm to palm, and he goes palm to back of the palm, and just levers down on this. And Mejia does a great job of like getting his shoulders out of position. And like, so Grippo is not clearly flat on the back. He's head to head, but he's almost head to head on the side. Mm-hmm. And then Mejia's turning out. And you can see Mejia's face like turning white. Like it is not going red. It is like you can see the blood has been choked out of his face because Grippo is pulling so hard on the one side of the neck. And then Mejia has both hands on the neck. He's defending. Grippo gets under him and gets a body lock with his legs over Mejia's second hand while he turns. So both Mejia's low side hand is off and can't defend the choke, and his other hand that was pulling down, the better hand that was pulling down the choke, is blocked by Grippo's legs, and Grippo pulls his legs and basically pulls the defense hand from Mejia off with his legs by like just locking his legs together. And then Grippo is still in not a great place to finish this, but he just wants it. He just throws all of the gas into that choke, and you watch it. You see Grippo's face. He's just like gritting into the choke, and you see Mejia just kind of going to sleep. You can see him just like, this is incredibly tight, and now I have nothing to defend. I am just defending this with my neck, and I can't continue to defend it with my neck. And he has to tap. And it's just like this wild come from behind moment where Grippo, like having lost the first section of the match in the overtime, completely turns it around and gets a sub when the chips are down. Absolutely insane trials match to finish with a Renegade choke.
Yeah, he stays super diligent on that choke. Like, he just stays on it. And I'm like, I think that might be it. Like, because I'm like, he's not moving. There's not a whole lot of wiggle coming out of Mejia. It's just, I'm on the neck. I'm going. I have that knee pinned over the arm. Mm-hmm. I've got everything kind of, I don't know if was it intentional or something, just, something he made up on the spot. But it just felt very like, this is it. And he just kept going. And I was like, oh man, yeah, like you're saying, he started to change color. And I'm like, dude, I get it. You want to go where you want to go, but like, he's about to send you somewhere you don't want to go. So you may want to tap. And then when he tapped, it kind of saw like, it looked like he was close to already being out. Yeah. Cause he kind of,
at that level, man, like, that's what you expect. Like, it looked like it was like into the windpipe, and it looked like not only like a tight Renegade choke, it's also a short choke with a guy at a world championship level of Gianni Grippo. Like, this is not like a regular short choke. This is Gianni Grippo in trials finals, gunning down, trying to put the front of your neck through the back of your neck in a windpipe short choke with like one artery, and he has your other shoulder pinned in. It was just a beautiful. It was just a beautiful finish and a really interesting match. Do you have anything else on this match before we move on?
Nah, that was a great match though. Yeah. Nothing else to add.
It was incredible. Let's talk about another fun match. Michale Sainz defeats Max Hanson via decision. So that was under 66 was Gianni Grippo and Dominic Mejia. Michale Sainz and Max Hanson is under 77 kilos. This was just, man, Michale Sainz being incredibly diligent. Just diligent through and through the entire time. Most of this match is Michale Sainz on top of Max Hanson's knee shield half guard, just trying to not even like jam the knee cut through, just fencing for the underhook, having his head down in Max Hanson's head and chest, and just waiting to like fatigue Max Hanson enough so that he can get the pass working. I think he only really passes like one time, and credit to Max Hanson here, incredible defense on the pass. And again, another like very small margins. Michael Sainz, I think, is going to be a wrestling problem at 77 because the initial sequence that he hits down is like just a beautiful, was it a knee pick, knee tap?
Yeah, it was a knee tap. It was a, drive the arm across, tap the knee, got him down. And then very diligent, like you're saying, with where he was passing, his head never moved. It was in his jaw the entire time. And I'm like, wow, that is a pain to deal with.
He never gets he never like rises up. He's always, even if the head is up, it's never up and like resting and waiting. It's like Michael Sainz stays in that wrestler down block, like not down block. That's what I'm looking for. That like outside knee cut like position the entire time. He never lets Hanson really fence his legs. And like the two times that Hanson actually does get a shot on his leg, it's Hanson gets the entry, he gets underneath, he threads the leg over, and then you see Michael Sainz go, pull the knee down, get to his hip, and then Jasmine Rocha on commentary also talks up because she's Florida. They're all Miami. All those guys are in the same little area. Goes, yeah, he's also a good leg blocker. Like he's a wrestler. Him, his brother, and his other brother all won Florida State wrestling titles in the same year, which is a crazy stat. It's like Michael Sainz is also a good leg blocker, and so you see him just very calmly. Like the thing that was very notable in this is Max Hanson is a super dangerous leg blocker, and to have Michael Sainz start to get leg locked by Max Hanson and just go like very diligently, he passes the leg to the outside. He pushes at the knee. He pushes at the inside knee that Max Hanson is controlling his knee line with. He gets down nice and low so that he has an angle to pull his leg straight out. He like pulls his leg straight out. And then the next thing he does is he doesn't just freak out and run away because that'll give Max Hanson another opportunity to enter and go. He just like immediately pulls the leg through, squares his hips back, gets up, tacks up, and then goes back into what he was doing. And it was just
rinse and repeat.
Yes.
Rinse and repeat. Everything came back to that same kind of like camping or whatever they call passing, where his head is just, I'm in your shit. Mm-hmm. I'm not moving from here. This is this is my home base. And like he never gave Max many opportunities to go under to his legs because we've seen Max finish a whole lot of people with leg attacks. And I'm just like, wow, this is an issue. Like, there's no chance for you to get under him because he's not moving anywhere but this one place.
Yeah, normally this kind of matchup is going to be boring. But what I liked from on top from Michael Sainz here is that Sainz was consistently, he wasn't just camped in this position. He was consistently driving forward and spinning for the underhook and looking for the overhook. And like he was consistently like hunting for the head. He'd overwrap Max Hanson's head and try to like chin strap and try to pull through. Like he was consistently working a variety of passes that you can do in this area. He was, I think, one point he lets Max Hanson get an underhook that Max Hanson tries to turn in, and then Michael Sainz just whizzers him back down. And I was like, dude, you even got the underhook, and he just decided that it wasn't enough and gets you back down. It was just incredible, like, activity in the spot. He had Sainz had multiple options there. And then at one point, I was trying to figure out, because Michael Sainz almost passes at one point. And I was really, really curious what was different for like what allowed him to pass. And it's basically Max Hanson goes to flare up to then scoop an underhook and try to go under. And he's been playing like really close across his chest, trying to get sort of, I think, Sainz to overcommit and try to slice outside long and then counter the back take. But it looked like he was trying to do. And at one point, you have Max Hanson flare his elbow a little bit, and Sainz basically drives forward, traps the elbow on the top of his shoulder, and then overhooks with the arm and the head, and goes to that head and arm like overhook position that you're going to pass from the knee cut. And he's able to drive it all the way across. He gets his leg through. He finishes the knee cut. And then Max Hanson is like, oh, I'm past here. This is bad. Immediately opens his hips, turns his hips down all the way to the bottom, and then he gets his shoulders up. So that he doesn't have, and Jay Regabudo on commentary calls it out, he doesn't have 75% of his back flat to the mat and controlled. And so it's like there's two criteria for passing. One, you have to control the person for 3 seconds. Two, you have to have 75% of their back approximately flat to the mat. shoulders down, or like almost shoulders down. And Max Hanson knows immediately to just get up and make that angle so that although Sainz has passed, he's not finished the pass, he's not controlled the pass, and he's not going to score the pass because he doesn't have all of the criteria met to finish that. And it was just wild to watch Max Hanson, again, be super, super diligent in that, like, get up, turn. And then Michael Sainz, there's like a 2-second period of control. There's like another 2-second period of control, but there's not a continuous 3 seconds of control for different reasons because Hanson is just bridged so far up. And then Hanson pushes him back to half guard. Sainz passes over to mount again with like 2 seconds left, but it's not enough. And then again, Sainz at the end is like, "Well, did I score?" And like is asking why he didn't score. But it was just an incredible performance in the regulation from Sainz. And then the overtime was much of the same. Anything you have specifically in the overtime that we want to talk about? Really, that was the one sequence I wanted to talk about was in the regulation with the trapping of the shoulder, trapping of the elbow with Sainz's shoulder as he started to pass. Anything in the overtime that you specifically want to run through?
Not particularly, but with that over control, I wonder if he could have passed if he tried that flaring the knee out to the mount sooner. Because it just seemed,
I was curious.
It would just seem like you had him so stapled that like if he tried to push that knee out and like you're fighting him and like maybe if he did that a little sooner, maybe he gets those mount points.
Yeah. It kind of makes you wonder like how much did fatigue play a factor or like how much did changing the game there would he have had success earlier? But it's also what I like about these matches for that same reason is like at these high level matches, we only ever see like portions of guys' games. And one of the reasons I like trials is because you get to see these guys go against a bunch of guys that kind of maybe shouldn't be there, especially on day one, where it's like guys like me show up to a tournament and you're like, oh, you have Michael Sainz, or like I have Gianni Grippo. You're like, awesome. Grippo's about to cut a very quick highlight reel on me. And you get a chance to see like the depth of their game versus like other black belts and other like guys that are competitors, but not on the level of these guys. And then you see these guys in the finals versus each other, and you're like, oh, these margins are so thin. We're only seeing that razor's edge down of like, for him to go to that mountain that way, I'm really curious, like, what is he giving up? What opportunities is he giving Max Hanson there that he was only willing to give him in the last kind of dying seconds of the match on that big moment he just had? And it's one of the things that makes these high-level matches really interesting to me is because you see that honed down collection of game and the risk management. And that's one thing that I think I'm really excited to see Michael Sainz at the World Championships because the risk management was very, very good. He was just really diligent. He never got overextended. He never really got into a firefight with Max Hanson, who will absolutely take you into a firefight. And he just sort of was able to chip away at the match and take a very clean decision here. And it was just, again, overall, just very, very, a very impressive performance here from Michael Sainz. Anything else on this?
Nah, nothing else.
All right, let's move on to, I think, one of the bigger upsets of the whole tournament. Nathan Haddad defeats Ryan Aitken on penalties. Two things. I think Ryan Aitken got a little bit tired at the end.
Yes, you could absolutely see him being gassed with that big breath of air.
We paused it, and I was like, look at that. And Aitken takes this huge breath and goes, whoo, and like blows all this air out. I was impressed with Haddad. We've seen Haddad before. We've talked about Haddad for years now, but I didn't recognize that he was on this level. And I was wrong, and that's one of the reasons I love trials. It's like, I think this is probably the best Nathan Haddad has ever looked. But if you can look at this at the World Championships, like, this is exciting. He is just in Ryan Aitken's chest from go. He is like pushing the chest. And commentary, Big J, one of the best guys, talks about he thinks that he's trying to get Ryan Aitken to like switch the stance so that he can take the shot that he wants. Because Haddad and Aitken were in multiple shots. Both had very good wrestling defense. Both, I was very surprised, under 88 kilo guys had that level of speed. They were both in and under each other and then would both sprawl out and come back up. And they both had some really big moves. Two things from a technical perspective I want to talk about. Then we'll talk about the pull, the penalty that Aitken gets. Because it's like an extra 1 second he's down, essentially, is why he gets the penalty, because he's tired. It's just a little lapse of error of like 1 second, and he loses as a result of that. There are two really nifty sequences in this match. Both are non-scoring, but they're still really nifty regardless. I want to talk about the one of them. Haddad shoots, Aitken counters, and then counters a back take. Aitken then comes up and starts to wrestle up out of the bottom position because again we have no score. It's like the guys are working 2 seconds of control, not top position, not control, and they're working through this sequence. And Ryan Aitken from essentially a big Harigoshi Uchimata kind of counter, like tries to hip throw over and basically knock over Haddad off a counter takedown, a takedown that Haddad initially sets up. And then he pulls underneath. And I was like, ooh, is that going to score? Is Haddad going to get that takedown? Or is Aitken going to get the penalty point here? And I rewatched it, and it is beautiful understanding the rules from Ryan Aitken because Ryan Aitken has countered a takedown. He's come up, he's built a base, he's got wide, and then they are both standing, and then Aitken comes back in the same sequence, so it's still part of the same sequence, to throw Nathan Haddad over the top. He drives forward for 3 seconds on this throw. He then tries to hop the back, doesn't get it, and then the same motion falls underneath, and I went, oh my God, that was 3 seconds of takedown attempt into a pull, but you almost never see it from a throw. Because it's so hard to call like a guy going for a throw for 3 seconds and then pulling off of it. It's so hard to call that not a takedown for the other guy. But Aitken does it in a way that it's like, oh my God, you did drive for that takedown for 3 seconds and then pulled underneath off of it. You weren't able to get anything done with it really, but it was just incredible to have Aitken know that he was going to get the ability to pull and not have a negative assessed with him for that sequence. It was just a really beautiful, really cool understanding of the rules sequence that made me like double check and like rewatch a couple times to go, oh, that's what's happening here.
Yeah, it was very weird to see as it happened because when they landed, he had like a crossface, and I was like, okay,
yeah, he pulled into like almost like deep half. But with Haddad like underhooking super heavy and like, ooh, and then Aitken immediately is very good from that position, fences it off, gets back to where he wants to go to, and tries to go into the legs. There is one other sequence like this where essentially the penalty is Aitken tries to wrestle up. He comes to his knees, which you're still grounded for. He stands up on a single. He tries to drive Haddad over. He doesn't get it. And then they break, and then Aitken comes back to his knees and sits. And the problem is, Aitken is off of his knees for 4 seconds. And I watched it, and I was like, is that a wrong call? And I watched it a couple of times, and I went, and you said it was 5 seconds. Like,
to me, it looked around like 4 or 5 seconds. He was standing up, but he was also gassed. Yeah. And I don't know, when you're gassed, sometimes you may not be able to hear your corner talking to you. So it's like, and also I don't know if they warned him.
You're playing for a 1 second margin. It's like, it's kind of does suck to see like matches decided on like 1 second. But a lot of times at this level, the top guys in the region, top guys in North America, that 1 second is like the scoring criteria. And so had Aitken pulled, again, as soon as contact had been broken and sat back down, it wouldn't have been assessed as a pull because he was still seen as a grounded fighter within the 3 seconds. But he stands up for an extra second before he pulls and he gets the penalty. So that decides the match. Again, Nathan Haddad had an incredible performance here. He has a later section of the match after the penalty where he starts gunning for Aitken's back. He starts gunning for hook. Haddad impressed me in a way that I didn't expect. I expected Ryan Aitken to take this whole bracket. We talked about it last week. Like, I expected him to take it. He was the front runner here. This was sort of his to lose. For Haddad to put on a performance this impressive versus Aitken and push him to the point where he makes that like 1 second mistake there in order to get the negative up was just really impressive. Anything else on these sequences or anything else we want to run through for these guys?
Nah, shout out to Nathan Haddad. Way to win it.
Yeah, man. This was like an incredible performance from Haddad. Let's move on. Under 99 kilos, Elder Cruz defeats Steven Bana on penalties. Bana gets a penalty for inactivity after a couple of warnings.
A lot of wrestling, a lot of stand up in this match.
You can call it wrestling. It's really a lot of guy. It's like, I think wrestling's a very nice way. So I gave Adam the talk of like, hey, it's like, not be disparaging on the show. There's not a lot of activity in this match. It is a shot and counter shot, back and forth, with not a whole lot of success. Stephen Bann at one point has a really cool sprawl split counter where he's able to stand up off Elder Cruz's shot. This is, if you've seen a close Elder Cruz match that goes to decision versus a high level guy, that was this match. I wish Elder Cruz would drive more on his see, the problem is, realistically, he wins matches this way. He is not incentivized to change his game at all because it's boring. It's just Elder Cruz's game. He wins on these really small margins where he forces you into a takedown. But he forced Nicky Rod into it. He just forces guys into these weird upright stance takedown battles. And unless you can get underneath him, get to his legs, he's probably gonna beat you in this double-legged, single-leg, counter, shot counter, square stance battle. He's good enough at the collar tie. He's good enough at managing the space. He keeps enough activity. But overall, man, it was just not a very exciting match. And I know, I think it frustrates me because I know how good Elder Cruz is, and I know he has more depth to his game. We just frequently in these finals matches just don't see it. And I think that's the more frustrating thing to me than anything. I have nothing else on this match. Do you have anything else on this match, Adam?
Nah.
Yeah. It was an Elder Cruz match. If you've seen one of them at a high level, you've kind of seen this match. Let's talk about this next match. Plus 99, Nick Hartman, back at it again. Silver medal from the last North American trials. He goes against Francis Pana. We watched this in the pre-show. What did you describe Pana as? You said something about him that made me kind of chuckle. Like, it's a lot of man, a big guy.
It was very, very, very large human. That's about it. It was Pana really fighting hard against Hartman's pretty much half guard for the most of it.
Yeah.
And it was interesting to watch, trying to pass, and then eventually
he wanted one pass. He wanted to flatten Hartman down here with his overhook and slide through pass. That was all he wanted. And then the one time Hartman posts on the shoulder and gets underneath him, he recognizes when Pana drives forward, and he just basically does the classic push the shoulder, push him away, goes to a regular what you teach everyone, a fundamental, really good straight ankle lock position, and just guns down on the straight ankle on Pana. And then you see some defense, and then you see Pana go, nah, he's going to break her foot off. Nope, he's going to break that off. That was the match. What were you seeing in the passing from Pana here? Because I watched it. I was like, you're a heavyweight. You see more stuff in these matches than I see. What were you seeing here that you liked with his passing? With what he was just the where he was taking that pass?
That's tough because Hartman was so diligent with his knee shield. He never let him take the space where he needed to. And it seemed like you're saying, Pana wanted one pass.
Yeah.
Instead of let me show him another thing to get the pass I wanted. He just kept that same tried and true.
He looked like he was gonna thought he was just gonna fatigue Hartman enough and eventually get it done. That sort of seemed like the strategy that Pana wanted to implement was eventually I'm enormous. I'm huge. I'm strong. I hit a nice foot sweep that Hartman went down on. Hartman wants to play the bottom. I want to pass from the top. It just seemed like, given more time, Pana just takes that with just I'm driving for. I want to say, was curious if he was going to start getting penalties, but yeah, it was. I would have loved to see Pana do a little more here and mix up the passing offense, but again, the minute anything different, Hartman just makes the space and immediately ends the match. So it's maybe that's the concern that Pana had, that was any opportunity this guy has, he's going to be dynamic underneath me into my legs, and I do not want to deal with that. And so I'm going to only show him this one pass that keeps me very diligently away from him and away from his legs, hope to fatigue his knee shield, and then pass late, or like just be the top player late, and then we go back into the overtime. He has to start standing with me again. I probably win the stand-up battle here in the overtime. Maybe that was the strategy, but again, it didn't work because Nick Hartman immediately just goes for the leg lock and gets it immediately.
And Hartman's good. Like
Yeah.
that's not a slouch. Like his half guard is very, very good. He was very diligent the entire time of making sure that shield did not get moved unless he had something that he was going for at the exact same time. So it was like Pana wanting one pass and Hartman being like, no, I'm going to be very diligent with what I'm doing to make sure that I'm playing this the way I want to. And when, like you said, when he posted that arm and he just went, I was kind of hoping he would have posted out or did something to kind of redirect it. But he just went over and he got the foot and immediately took it home with him.
Yeah. It was, again, just not a huge collection of other stuff to talk about really in the match. It was well played by Hartman. It was cool to see his run through the plus 99 division in this event. Again, puts him in the same place as last time with the in the finals, but now he takes it. So I'm curious to see him. I'm curious to see what improvements he makes over his performance at the Crown now with this win here. So,
and then he also had that shout out online, and well wishes to him. I know he's trying to look for, I think, something going on with his daughter. He posted about like medical things or like doctors. So shout out to Nick Hartman. I hope he gets that kind of help he's been looking for.
Absolutely. Moving on to the women's matches. Adam, you want to start at under 55 or over 65? We're in the middle. Where do you want to start with this one?
Over 65.
Over 65, let's talk about Paige Yvette versus Elizabeth Mitrovic. Mitrovic took the last one in East Coast trials, which unfortunately for the women is not a qualifying trials. Oh, no, did she take the last one? No, I'm wrong about. I think I'm wrong about that. I'm completely blanking on it. I think Mitrovic has taken these before or been in the finals before. I know we've talked about it in the finals before. Mitrovic has a great game. Paige Yvette wins the decision here. Really, she just guns from early in the match to put a pace on Elizabeth Mitrovic, and they kind of trade sweeps back and forth at one point. But generally, Paige is able to force Mitrovic into that like really classic Mitrovic guard that she plays, which is you're heavy stacked into her hips, and Mitrovic puts her feet directly behind her head and basically pushes off and drives into her hips, and she just shuts down a bunch of passing. But what I liked from Paige here was that she was repeatedly like forcing the turtle. She was repeatedly going for the armbar. She sat back for the leg at one point. Like Paige was just winning this on activity. And even in like the late in the match, they're in overtime. I think it's overtime. Paige sends down, grabs a single leg, picks to a double. Mitrovic sprawls down. Paige keeps it, gets up, drives them out of bounds. This is the end of the match, actually.
Yeah, it's in overtime. That sequence was so cool. Like that transition from the single to the double. Like I was like, okay, she's really gunning to get those points. Yeah, back to the single, really gunning to get those points to win it.
Yeah. And then they restart, and which, again, I like how ADCC does restarts. Man, I would be upset if I was Mitrovic to start in the center. But the thing I thought was really cool, on initial watch, I thought that Paige Yvette got the points for this. I rewatched it again, and I went, oh, no, she puts Mitrovic down. Mitrovic gets to turtle. There is no score here on this sequence. I think, again, she gets it on initiation, but Mitrovic was able to prevent that score. And on the first watch, I had missed that she didn't score on that, which is incredible. Like, go back and watch the final restart for this match between Yvette and Mitrovic. To start in the position that they start Yvette in, with a woman as strong as Yvette. And Mitrovic is tall, which makes it even more difficult for her to defend that because she's tall. Then have Yvette lift you up, bring you down, and then have Mitrovic be active enough with her hips to get out, turn, get the angle, and then not get scored on here was just like impressive to me. Again, I think Paige Yvette climber. They had her as Borlis.
Boris or Barros? I'm not too sure.
I know her as Paige Yvette Climber. She's not married. Sloan was there in the crowd, so I assume that like they're still married and her name is still Climber, but she's being listed and noted as a bunch of different names, so I need to get some clarity on that. Paige Yvette Climber takes this one by decision, really just on activity. She looked, again, kind of talking about Nathan Haddad, this is the best Paige has ever looked. When I watched it with my wife, and she was like, hell yeah, Paige won. She's a big fan of Paige because she did a seminar with Paige a couple of years ago and just talked about, like, yeah, she was really great to be around, had some great technique. It's awesome to see her being successful. And so, yeah, this is a stunning performance for Paige. Looked phenomenal. Excited to see her at the World Championships. I hope Mitrovic gets an invite. I like seeing the type of game that Mitrovic brings. So I hope that she's able to lock up the other invite. But we will see. Anything else on this one, Adam?
No, nothing else.
All right, let's talk about Sarah Galval submitting Jaden Rabar. This is a teammate fight, or not. This is a former teammate fight. Holy shit, man. Sarah Galval's good. This was essentially one-way traffic from the jump. Sarah Rebar at one point has a really nice counter where she's able to get up off of a Galval takedown, get back to her feet, but Galval then just counters it again with another like Harigoshi variation that she hits once, kind of gets out, hits it again, immediately pass to the back. One of the things we talked about with Sarah Galval, like when she was on ADCC a couple of years ago, I was really concerned about her finishing percentage. And I went, I'm really concerned because she's like this touted high-level prospect from one of the former best gyms in the world. I was going, okay, you should be way better than your competition. You should be putting a lot more of your competition away. And now we are starting to see her do that in her match at the UFC and here and who's number one. Like, we're starting to really see her putting a lot of her competition away in a way that I was hoping that she would develop her game in that direction. Rear naked choke here before the points period. I think she finishes this in like 3 minutes and 40 seconds.
Yeah, it's well ahead of where the points are. It's a great setup. Once she gets to the back, that's her probably best, in my opinion, her best finishing area.
Absolutely.
Even though you've seen her do arm bars, you've seen her do knee bars, but like when she's on the back, she's got you dead to rights at that point.
Yeah, her rear naked choke game is much improved from where it was even a couple of years ago. So she'll be, again, she was the front runner here for the division. Really no surprise if you looked at the bracketing that she was most likely going to take that given the strength. Again, you just beat Gabby Pisana. Dog, in the gi. You just beat Gabby Pisana. And arguably, might have beat her at Euros too. You can make an argument. So yeah, Sarah Galval will be under 65, North American trials winner, and on to Poland. So let's talk about the final women's division, the under 55 kilogram division. Shyla Lindsay defeats Valerie Hamilton, formerly Valerie Wong, 3-0. Damn, Lindsay's good, man.
She went on a tear.
Yeah, this was
real tear the entire trials. Like submitting everyone but the final opponent is kind of crazy.
It's always crazy when it gets to that. You're like, yeah, I beat everyone, and you run to the finals, and it's like, can they do it? And then Valerie Hamilton is good enough to not have her do it. But dude, Lindsay. So they mentioned something on commentary. I have a blank spot with Shyla Lindsay. I know we've talked about her before, but I don't recall recently. I think commentary was talking about that she's usually up a weight class. This is the first time that she was at under 55 kilos. I think I heard that correctly. It looked like Lindsay was the stronger fighter here, and the way that she went through top position and forced the turtle from the passing position from Valerie was very impressive. Then she latches onto the back, and then the last, 5 minutes of the match, like a big chunk of the match, are just Shyla Lindsay looking for the choke, looking for the finish, looking for the choke, looking for this. She eventually scores her hook in, gets the points for the back mount, only 3 points, and then just rides it out. And I thought, when I watched this at the end, I thought she'd finished, and then it was just a points win. But, just very impressive. Like, at no point did Shyla Lindsay really have to run through adversity versus Hamilton. Like, she just
Not at
looked
all.
phenomenal, man.
It just looked like from the start it was her match.
Yeah, man, she looked phenomenal.
It was just like, man, you're gonna put up a pretty good fight, but this is just her match to win.
Yeah.
And the way that she stayed on the back, even when she got out of position a little bit, she still was in control of the back. Like usually people go over and then people can kind of backdoor escape. Even with that, like sometimes her head was on the mat and she still was in enough control to stay in the back mount and keep attacking. And I was just impressed. I'm like, usually people kind of get out here, and that did not happen at all.
Yeah, there was like one time with Riley Hamilton, I went, yeah, like Zach, what you said, like, yeah, usually people get out here, and then Lindsay's just able to keep it in just a very impressive way. So she is your under 55 kilogram champion. I really wish I kind of had more pieces on this match, but it was just, I mean, just Sarah and Shiloh were just incredibly dominant in their matches, and there's really, just very, very good technique, fundamentally very strong technique, scoring technique, and then, I was able to get the finish. Lindsay's not able to get the finish, but able to get the points, and she takes it. So, Adam, any closing thoughts on trials? Anything else on the match that you forgot about? Any of these matches you want to talk about?
Nothing at the top of my head. I'll be interested to see how that 99 kilos goes.
With Nick Hartman in there, and like now we don't have Gordon's not in there. We don't have it'll be. I think this ADCC will be a very interesting transitional year for a lot of the weight classes. It's the first time in 7 years. It's not going to be in the U.S. We're going back over to Europe, going to Poland. I have to book my flights and tickets. They're very expensive this year. I'm not super jazzed, but it'll be exciting. We'll probably do that after we back from Japan. But yeah, overall, we'll probably actually in the next.
Gordon Ryan.
What?
No Gordon.
I know, which is like. It'll be a very interesting transition. It's like, does Nick Rodriguez come back? Right?
This would be.
Does he get invited back?
I mean, if that's the case, wouldn't this be kind of the last attempt?
But I mean, like, if he's done CGI, he notably didn't return when he was a medalist. And so it's like, is he in the good graces enough to get an invite? Has he, by not coming, was he then required? Because usually the thing was, if you didn't accept your invite or your medal spot, you were required to do trials again. He notably did not do trials, and so is he under exclusive contract with UFC? Like, it'll be a very interesting year for ADCC. Again, it's always for me the most exciting tournament every 2 years, so I'm still jazzed for it. It is just very interesting. This will be the year where we have more new blood than we have had in any modern era ADCC, and I'm pretty jazzed for it, man. We're gonna have guys that really are looking to put a stamp on that tournament in a way that, again, the way that everyone's looking to put a stamp on the tournament. But I think we're going to have a lot of people that we have way less tape and footage on than prior. We're going to have some of the staples and standouts, but there'll be a lot of people that'll be, it's their first ADCC or only their second ADCC. Whereas previously we've had a lot of long-standing names. So I'm jazzed for it. It's the last North American trials. I think we are all done with trials now, and so now we're going to get through the invite list. Probably in the next couple of weeks, we will probably talk about one of the shows. I've got to pre-record before my wife and I go on our honeymoon to Japan. We'll probably pre-record a show where we talk about all of the names announced for ADCC so far, and then give a little backstory, and then we'll do a much larger show in the lead up to ADCC where we run through division by division by division by division. And so overall, those shows are always, from a research perspective, a nightmare, but they're always very, very interesting to do because it gives you a good landscape. And it's, again, one of the things that I think from a research perspective gives me the most bang for the buck for any show we do every couple of years is the research for the ADCC lineup shows. So it'll be fun. Any other closing thoughts, Adam?
I'm pulling for Gianni Grippo at 66.
It would be crazy to see him. Dude, him and Baby Shark. If one lets Baby Shark out to do it, we could see it.
That would be very, very interesting.
It'd be real fun. I don't think they've gone against each other.
Ecological approach on the big stage, baby.
And then we also got 66 is a phenomenal division. And yeah, it should be a very, very exciting tournament. So Adam, that's all I got. Anything else?
Nothing else.
All right. As always on the show, I'm your host, Maine, my co-host,
Adam.
and we are the Grappling Rerounds. So no matter what it is, stay safe. If you like the show, please consider sharing it on Facebook with the folks at your gym. It's the best way that we grow the show, and we really appreciate it. You can reach out to us on email.
We also have Instagram. We have Facebook. We have Twitter. We have Google+.
Until that shuts down.
We have a website.
If you have an event you would like to have us cover, please let us know. If you have a name, like most people do, and you'd like to have us stop butchering it,
Let us know.
reach out to us. The show is also available on YouTube, Spotify, in addition to iTunes and every other podcast service. We very much appreciate your time, and thank you.